Alright guys, this is what we got here today. We have a Cub Cadet. It's also known as a, well, it looks like a Cub Cadet, also known as a International Harvester, hence the emblem that goes to it. But in any Accord, it's yellow, and we have got to restore this. So here's where we stand. I've gotten it running. It runs pretty good, but it still needs to be rebuilt because we have low compression in all the cylinders. It's a flathead, probably just crappy valves, but if you're going to do it, might as well do it right. So in any Accord, this is our next project here. This is what we got to work with. I noticed some clunking in the rear end as well. But I can get it going. Ugh. So we're going to have to start disassembling it here and getting it all took apart. Fixing things, repairing things, straightening things, making things better than they were. It'll be a nice little project. It'll be all nice and done, and not only that, there's a belly mower on it, so it's going to be able to mow the lawn. So that'll be really spiffy. That's my cable wire right there that I hooked up so I could get started. I did drive it around too a little bit, worked in all the gears. I just noticed a lot of slop in the inside of the tranny. I think it's all bearing and race problem. I don't think it's any gear problem, but we'll find out when I tear into it. Probably going to put a new clutch in it. Tires are good. Probably take them off, put them back on, make sure we get all the rust that would be inside of the rim. Gotta get that done. We got some leakage here. Probably no big deal. Looks like it's we got a little bit of play, but it's half a turn. Excuse me, a quarter of a turn, which is about normal. Looks pretty sensitive. So that's not too bad. Maybe I'll tighten that up a little bit, but definitely got to fix this leak that's in here. Can't let it roll around like that. Well, let me get it apart a little ways and get some more footage for y'all. Hey, as you can tell, we've gotten a lot farther on this. So what I'm doing is I've made marks in different areas. See, there's an indentation right there. Now I have a book that tells me most of all this stuff, but I've often learned that sometimes the book doesn't give you enough information when you're really trying to get it correct. So what I'm going to do is a little I've also taken pictures. There's marks inside of here. See if I can't get you guys a good view of this. I don't know that I can, but inside of here, I don't know that I can. There you go. Maybe I can. Here's these little dots. Kind of hard to see, but those dots are really important because this is the governor. As you can see by those big old ridges, the governor has a timing here. There's the dot. You can barely see it there, but there it is. But there's this timing with this governor, which is really important. I've taken pictures of this too, so we're pretty good. But yeah, maybe this would get it in there a little better. Don't know that. There we go. Maybe I'm upside down or backwards on the film, I don't know, but there are those dots. Actually, those dots are super important because that's the timing, because this governor's timed, and the the good old thing that makes it spark, the distributor, runs off this, and that's a timed setup. Most John Deere's, the governors aren't timed. All that's timed off of something else, but the governor itself doesn't have to be timed. A lot of John Deere's, a lot of the older ones are, but like your MTs and stuff, they do run off a time, but not off the governor. They run off a time of the crank. So this is a little bit different. So, but anyway, why would I do this? I take all these notes because I have a book, and if the book is wrong, or the book tells me some stuff that I'm not thrilled about, then I can reference my videos and my pictures and get us back where we need to be. See, there's the governor right there, and I've made all types of little nifty marks for things that it makes sense. What I understand about mechanics. This is real mechanics, guys. This isn't. This is gears and timing, and you know, there's no computer doing all of this. Once it's there, and you have a minimal amount of adjustment. And you don't want to get it out of a time because, well, crush a valve, or who knows what you may do, or not run real well. So here's where we are right now. All this is off already. I'm going to keep going, make you some more video. And a little reminder to self that this little piece right here was in here just like that. Pounded out this way, out. And that goes in that way. And if y'all don't realize this, there is a correct way for these seals to go in and out of there too. You don't want to put them in the wrong way. It doesn't work if you do that. Okay. Got it. Now here we're taking more stuff off. It's probably even barer than you thought I would maybe have gone, but there's reasons why we go this far down. Here's a bolt. This holds the front end on. Went right in here. See, if you just painted over that, you never would have realized that it's almost rotted through. And we're also going to get this freed up, get that moved out. It really doesn't pay to doesn't really pay to half-ass do this stuff. But as you can tell, we've got most of it apart. We'll probably be getting off the motor today. Send that to the machine shop and keep on tearing it down. It's going to be torn down pretty far down. So, gotta show that to y'all real quick. Sorry I'm not filming every little thing. I have to actually work too, so I don't have time to hold the camera and do it. But I can show you as I go. So, I just thought I would make note of this. Like I said in the past, you better have some really good tools to do this, because this isn't exactly being super easy or simple for me. It's really giving me a pain in the butt to do, but it's coming. Little motor's out. Here she is in all her glory. Well, actually, little to no glory, but there's our motor. As we walk over here to my mess that's everywhere, here is our garbage throwout bearing. That's not worth crap. That's junk. And all this crap in here. So, keeps getting smaller. Bloody dirty in there. Hey. Makes you wonder how all that crud gets in there. Alright, we're getting her whittled down. Alright guys, disassembly is over. We are starting to get things together and start sandblasting, bead blasting. Actually getting stuff repaired and fixed and made like new. As you can tell over here, I've got hanging up on the cherry picker. This is the main gear case, drivetrain, all in this little bitty box here. I'll be sandblasting this tomorrow and painting it. Once we sandblast it and paint it, I'm going to open it up here and then open it up in here. I've felt in here and it feels really good. I don't think there's going to be any problems in there. But once I get this all cleaned up and painted, I'll go ahead and pull these out, have them plated. I'm going to get my plugs plated, all that, but might as well just go ahead and clean it up and paint it. The paint I'm going to put on here is super durable. You've seen my videos in the past. My stuff holds up really well. There is a method to my madness. So here's where we are. Leaking here, that seal is going to be replaced. These seals will be replaced. Anything that I think is leaking is going to be replaced. The seal in here will be replaced. We already got the engine sitting over here. It's going to be disassembled and took apart. We got a bunch of bead blasted parts. They're going to be sent out to the plater when we get done after they're polished. So the Cub is coming along quite nice. We're going to have the wheels dismounted, paint the rims and reinsert them right back on. See if there's anything in there we got to repair. We will be repairing all the seals that are down inside the axles. Both axles, everything. Ordering all new seals for those. We'll be repairing the oil seals in the steering gear. All of that's going to be gone through and made super, super nice. I actually see almost no leaking on this hydraulic pump. And since it's not a mandatory thing and it comes off and on, I have seen almost no leaking out of it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and clean it up, put just the outer seals in and go with it, because it didn't chatter, miss. It did everything it was supposed to do. So I think we got lucky with that. So we'll be able to save a little effort, be able to save a little money and effort with this. So, and if not, gives me problems, I'll pop it right back off, hit it real quick, put it back on. We got our seat stuff all took apart. We'll be sandblasting and bead blasting that stuff. I mean, we're gonna get there. I'm putting some stuff back on the Cub here. We are going to basically put the seals inside of here, different arrays. There's several ways to do this. Pretty sure that you guys probably know how to put seals inside of holders and whatnot. So I'm going to put all these seals in, and then when I go to assemble it, you'll be able to see. Because like this seal goes in here, which goes here. Not tough, right? Not complicated. Nothing too big. Well, I'm going to go to putting all these seals in their cups and whatnot, and then we'll start assembling it, and you'll know how to put one of these, I guess they're final drive gears or whatever you want to call them. But these are the two back ends of the Cub that run the big gears that run the wheels. So I'll show you how to put them together. I could have showed you take them apart, but putting it together is going to be just as much pieces as taking them apart. So we'll go ahead and do that first. Let me get these seals inside of their proper places, and then we'll show you how to assemble this. Okay, let's put this thing together. If you wonder why this is already on here, because normally I like to glue the gaskets to the surfaces of the things I'm going to put to something in case you ever get back in there. It's glued to here, and it's glued on to here, and you just put a little There's another type of little bit of adhesive you put on here and it comes on and off, but I normally glue them to the bases like this, like valve cover gaskets and whatnot. This works out really easy, and then you just put a little bit of shellac on this side and bam, there you go. But on this little thing, I really wanted to stick really well first. So I went ahead and screwed it in because there is a hole inside of here where the bearing in here gets oil, and I didn't want anything to obstruct that, so I didn't want to glue it to the outer piece. I glued it to the inner piece. It's not something I normally do, but with that hole being in here, it's a really good idea. So you don't plug it up. And as soon as I get the other two off, I'll show you. Oh, there you go. No gasket, new seal in here, and there's this little hole right here that is really important because that is what lubricates the bearing. As you can see that right there. This is also upside down, it goes this way, but this is a return hole, so as oil comes in here, as it moves in a circle, it's able to flow back into the case. So that's why I did that. So be careful of that hole and make sure that you have not done anything to mess that up. Right, now we got to put this big old gear back in here. Back up. And move it to the side. Remember, it really doesn't matter which way I think you really put this gear in here, but I actually made some marks that just told me the way I took them in and the way I put them out, so I would put them back in the same way I took them out. But I really don't believe it matters. At least I didn't see anything anywhere that it did matter in the literature anyways. So, but I went ahead and did that anyway. Oily fingers. Okay, so we got to put the hub in here. Now remember, don't forget to put your hub seal before you put your hub bearing on, because if you don't put your hub seal on and you put your hub bearing, this is going to suck later, and you're going to be screaming and crying and yelling, or just mad. Make sure to lubricate all the seals that you're putting in with some grease of some kind. You most likely will be rotating them, so a little lube never hurt anybody. Yeah, I said that. Anyway. And there you go. So you don't mess that up. Okay. And on here, this goes like this, and you got to put the bearing on. Make sure you get the right bearing in the right spot. There's two ways you can do this. You can either get a press and press this bearing back on, or you can tap it back on with a punch. Either way, that bearing's just got to get down there on that flange. So as long as you're down there on that flange, you're good. And ta-da! Bearing up to the flange where it's supposed to be. Good bearing. Cool. Then you will need to put this on. That goes in there. Then what is next? all that goes inside of there. Okay. And then it has to go up through here. Okay. This will go through here. There you go, like so. Okay. After you have that in there, then there's going to be a little heavy. This little doohickey, and it goes in like this, just like that. And this little washer, that goes right on top, just like that. Then you will put your bearing in, like so. And this little washer normally goes on here. But first of all, I have to tap this guy down a little bit. Real careful with that. It's just a little heavy. So you gotta tap that down enough till this gets on there, because this has to be torqued. So as long as you're careful with what you're doing, there's really no reason you can't do that way. Whew, I'm gonna give myself a bit of a break there for a minute. There's a little O-ring I gotta put in there too, which I'll show you, but careful you don't drop this. It is heavy. It is a bit of a pain to get this on here at first, but after you get it to this point, you can set it over on something more solid. Which is what I'm fixing to do. Okay to do too, but just make sure you don't hit on these little lines. As long as you're hitting on there, you're not hurting anything. These little, as long as you're hitting on the edge and not where the bearings are, the inner edge close to the shaft, you're alright. You should be fine. This thing goes on here, and believe it or not, this has to be torqued. And you want to torque it before you put this O-ring inside of there. We haven't totally got rid of all this play yet, but we're getting there. It'd be okay. I'm fixing to use my torque, not my torque wrench, but my impact to get a little closer, because there's a lot of play in there. And I think it's 10 to 20 inch-pounds they want this, but I still know there's too much play in there. Sweet. Still way too much play. No bueno. I don't know. I think it should be snugger than that. Maybe not though. So we gotta put a torque between 10 and 20 inch-pounds before the seal. Well, that's 25, so let's see. So guys, preload would be when you pull it, the load on the gear when you're pulling it would be how much load that's on there. And this feels about like what I had, and I know it's the correct spacer, and I had driven the tractor before, so it seemed to be quite fine. So I think we're going to roll with that. But normally, preload would be you set your torque, and you pull on it and see what it takes to drag it at so many inch-pounds. But this is set at 20, and it says from 10 to 20, maybe it's 25, but it feels about right. It feels about like the way it was, and there was no issues with driving it, so. Then we got to pop this back off and put a little seal in there so it doesn't leak. Okay, here's another way you can check it out, guys. See the torque with your hand on how this moves? Now this is the one where we did the 10 to 20 inch-pounds of drag, and I can feel that with my arm where that should be. Well, this one we didn't do anything. And let me tell you, now I can tell the difference in the two, and they're both about the same. So that's another way you can do this. Keep in mind these are tractors. This is what we're trying to do, is just keep enough play in there so when bearings get hot and stuff, they don't wear out prematurely. So that's what all this time is about. So we're about all got this almost all together. So alright, we put our shellac on here. Make sure we put a little grease in here. Just so it slides on easy. Go. And we put our brand new spanking bolts on there that look really snazzy. Let's put this side in. One of the nice things about painting all this stuff before you put it together, it makes everything stand out. And if you use decent paint, you're not going to mess it up bad. I mean, it's just greasy, just wipe it off and looks good. Okay, there we go. That's nice. I believe we got our torque right. I think we're good. Now we have to do the upper part of the drive. Alright, let's get the rest of this together. Something you need to know. This goes in through here, like so. And remember this little ring here goes to the outside like that, because if it's in here, it holds it like that. So anyway, let's put our bearing on. Which is actually a whole lot easier than you think. If you have a brass hammer, you can get away with a lot of this. So we need a socket of some kind. Well, actually we don't, but we should. Maybe I can just... No, not a good idea. Let me find a socket that'll fit it. And we just tap the bearing. Just like that to that flange, and there you go. Make sure you don't let that cutter, that little pin right there, mess up your seal. Put this on here, like so. Snap ring on. Now you can tap that in there. Let's put the other snap ring in wherever we have it here in this big cluster of mess. There we go. Now, there we go. Feels all about right. Now this is for your brake. This will go on this way. You have a cotter key pin inside of here. I mean a slot that goes inside of here. Remember the nut, or the little tightening bolt, goes to the inside so you can get to it. Oh, and there we have it. And there's a nice little flange on there that'll fit right up to, just right there. We're lucky enough to have an Allen head wrench to do this. I mean, or a square, excuse me, a square head to do this. All you gotta do. That'll lock it in place and turn your lock nut. Which is definitely a 1/2 inch that is somewhere abouts. It's here somewhere, but little 1/2 inch locking nut, and there you go. Let me show you guys the inside of there. Here's what we did. There's our locking bolt that locks against our keyway, and there's our tension screw, and there we are. Now let's get our cap on here. Ooh, brand new glued on gasket. I'm gonna put that right on there, right on there, right on there like that. If you guys have any questions about what I'm doing, just leave some comments and I'll get me or my editor to write you back with any answers you may want. Remember, don't forget your locking rings that go on here. It's very important. Getting something like that can definitely give you a bad day. Here we go. Okie dokie. Wipe off some of this crud, which is going to come off pretty easy. Now let's put the bottom on. Really don't believe that there's a wrong or a right way to put these on here, as long as they don't rub inside of here. We do have to put new gaskets on it, so let me go do that real quick. Alright, let's put our shellac on here. We've already glued it on, so let's go ahead and put our shellac. That's one thing that's great about the shellac, with a little solvent. You know, solvent that won't hurt paint, but just solvent in general. They just wipe right off. I'm happy with this. I mean, we're in really good shape. I mean, it looks really good. I mean, other than a few little nicks and dings that we'll touch up, it looks really nice. And we have all this new hardware on here. That looks good. New hardware. Another added bonus, say like so when you look down in here, you can see that the nice pretty gasket and everything looks real spiffy in there, and it's all key in a really good restoration to do things to, it's all the details. So alright, now we're going to go ahead and redo this one. There's no real sense in it's basically the same stuff, same thing, same everything to doing all this, so there's really no need for me to film this other than just for redundancy. So go ahead and get this one done and put it next to the other one when I'm finished, and because I'm pretty certain that in here, you know, there's probably another tensioning screw that, you know, but your gasket's going to be here and not so much there. There's no real need. Same process, same thing, just a shorter shaft, but same stuff. We do the same thing. So let me get this one done. Here we're getting to where we're starting to put the rear differential back together on this here Cub. So here's what you got to do in order to do this. These are your caps for your bearings. You're going to have a left and you're going to have a right one. Now I've already installed new seals in here. And you're going to have these shims, and you're going to have this O-ring that goes right around here. And all this is new. So how you're supposed to do this is, as you can tell, we have the differential in there. So this is your cap for your bearing, and normally these caps only go one way. They won't go any other way. and only go one. So that's a plus. So you normally can't put them on wrong, because the bolt pattern will only line up one way. There we go. And normally there's a little hole in the side of here. You can see what happens is oil gets filled up between here, and you kind of want that bearing to be in there halfway. And there's an oil hole right in there anyway. It allows it to leak back out. Or if it gets trapped in, so it has a way to go to be able to get oil in there, so as it push it out, it allows it to spin in there. So normally these only, like I said, they only go in one way. And then they go in because you have that little, there we go. Okay. You're going to have this little gasket in here that looks like mine's set pretty well. But it would help if you put some grease in there. You don't cut the gasket as it goes in. There's bolts that go in there. Put this right back up here. There we go. It's a little tricky. And you want this to go in evenly. And it appears that all your bolt holes that go in here for this are sealed for your bolts. So I don't see or anything could leak through your bolts that hold this cap in. But what I would do, just in case there's a crack in the casting somewhere, even though I haven't seen a crack in the casting at all, mind you, I would take just a little bit, not a lot of this, but a little bit of some sort of sealant, not a lot, just a very small amount, some sort of silicone of some kind. Just put a little bit on the threads, not a lot. I don't see any cracks in this housing at all. But you never know. I mean, my eyes aren't microscopes, so. And what the hell, it can't hurt anything. Now, these bolts need to be torqued at 45 lbs. And that's exactly what it says in the book. So, pounds. So it wants to be at 45 pounds, so you go set your torque wrench up for that. But first of all, we just want to get this cap seat in there real quick. Now we're trying to put this in very, so we want it to slide in there without messing up the seal. So we want it to go in very straight. So it's important to watch that as you put these caps on, because they need to go in straight, because there's an oil seal in there. And we don't want to cut that oil seal. If you cut that oil seal, you'll be taking all this back apart, and this is going to suck, which is why we replaced it anyway, so that we wouldn't have to do that. I mean, that's why we did this anyway and took this all apart, because it was leaking and we don't want it to leak. So anyway, seal that's in here is just that little rubber seal I showed you on the outer edge. Careful with that when you put these caps on. You don't want to cut that. That's why we use the grease. And the inner seals that have been put on too. Why did I show that? Why? I mean, I just told you. Alright, that's that one. Now let's get the other one in. Now if you have lock washers on these, they're not supposed to be there. So I've seen that happen where people put lock washers where they're not supposed to be. Just so you do know, there's no lock washer supposed to be on here. So there we go. Oopsie. Now we're going to put this little guy in. Now remember, the hole Normally goes on the side because the oil is going to be flush in there and they want it to be able to kind of get in and go out. And like I said, most of these you can only put them on one way anyway. I'm going to let you go in the other way, but just so you know you're right. The hole is supposed to be on the side, and there it is on the side. So. And like I said, these are all sealed in here. They all have their seals for their bolts, but just in case there is a slight crack or something where somebody has over torqued it, we're just going to put a little bit on there. It does not say this in the book. It doesn't say to do that. It's something I'm doing. It's not necessary normally, providing everything is okay. This is just something I like to do because I don't like to go back and have to do anything, and if there's a crack in there that I can't see that's ever so minuscule, it won't affect anything. At least it won't get all oily and gross in there, and it'll always be nice. So. And your shim should be even on both sides. Now I'm going to have to figure this out. They want me to wrap a string around this and get 8 pounds of pull when I pull it. A consistent pull of 8 pounds when I'm pulling this thing in a circle. That's what the book says. So I guess I'm going to have to go find me some sort of little thing that allows me to pull on, like a scale of some kind with a string on it. But I don't exactly have that. That was kind of the old way of doing it, I think. But I'll figure it out. And always tighten these kind of little at a time. You just want to get it in there. You don't want that little rubber seal that's in there to get cut any kind of way. Well, that don't go away pretty quickly. Because I hate that. So hopefully that's going to go away. I don't know if that's right at all. It's saying you pull it, you're supposed to get that much tension. I know that's not supposed to be there. So let's tighten this up and see if we get anywhere. And see if that goes away. If not, we got to remove quite a bit of shims. Because I'm not happy with that at all. That's a lot of play. But, it might go away. It seems like we're getting where we ought to be. You keep on these shims that are inside here, they don't crush real well, so I mean they don't crush, they stay pretty firm, so that's getting better. Oh, that's 45. That's 45. That's 45. So let's see, we're getting better. Well, like that, that's a lot better. Okay, that's 45 all the way around, both sides. And that's not bad. I mean, you're going to have a little bit of play in there. I mean, it's a lot easier when you're using a gauge to get it closer, but here's another thing you want to do too. These caps, you're going to want to let them sit for a minute and then come back and do this again. They come back and do this again. I recommend when you're putting the shims in here to do what we're doing at whatever the specification is at least 2 or 3 times. Go away for a little bit, come back, torque them again, go away a little bit, torque them again, go away for a little bit, torque them again. Because it could keep compressing a little bit. So, alright, we'll do this a few more times and move on to the next step. Alright, we've tightened each one of these bolts about 3 times. They're torqued well. I have, if I could get a gauge in there, I bet you I have hardly any play. Like when I do most of the track, my John Deere's, I can use a gauge and I can tell a lot of the stuff, but in this book it doesn't have that. So if I can tell that there's no play in there, it's pretty darn good. I'm real happy with it. You're supposed to tie a rope to this, and then there's like a weight, or you pull on it and it wants to have at least 8 pounds when you pull on it. Well, I don't have the main drive part out, but I do know what 8 pounds feels like because I've been doing this. So I think we're there. So that's how we do that. Well, I don't have this gasket, so I'm going to make one. So let's do that. Well, for all you guys at home that never seen this done before, this has been around a lot longer than I have, this method, so it's no magic anything to it. Just the old way of making gaskets when you don't have one. Now we just use silicone for everything. Oh boy. How cheap can we be? I don't know what this method is exactly called, to tell you the truth. I know my dad taught it to me. I don't know if it's tapping the gasket or whatever you want to call it, but this is one of the things my dad taught me. But what you're seeing, if you take your time, you can really use this on anything. And you might ask yourself, okay, well, why should I do this when I could just take silicone and do it? Okay. You got a point. You know, I mean, why should you? Well, what if you want to be able to take this back off down the road? You know? I want to be able to get this gasket off one day, and I'd have to just get a new one. That's a pretty good reason, I would think. And I'm pretty happy with that, so I mean, it looks like that's going to work out real. Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm pretty keen with it all. So we are going to try to pull this off. And we're going to finish the rest of this up. Yes, 44 Magnum. This should make really nice holes about that size. So kind of center it to get what you want and have a piece of wood under you. I like my bench is made of wood, so as you can tell, I beat on it all the time. And that's a pretty nice little hole. I mean, that's pretty good. Works for me. Let's see, maybe a 9mm might be better. I'm gonna go match this up. And it seems as though that the 9mm is going to be better. I'm decided to use the 9mm instead of the 44 Magnum, because it's outer, even though it doesn't fit in the bolt that great, but its outer circumference gives it just enough. And even though I made that one a little bit bigger, it's not going to be a problem because we have plenty of meat at the gasket right there. Alright, see, remember I told you the other side of the piece? So we're just going to that's going to make it real pretty. We have our nice new gasket. Then we use these here bolts to hold it in place while we did it. So now, take our bolts back off, make our trimmings. It's all pretty straightforward stuff, but you know, if you're a newbie or you know just starting to get into tractor rebuilding or restoring something, this would probably help to see how the how us pros do it per se. You know. Now when you cut on these lines, you want to cut to the inside of the line because you don't want a pin mark showing on your gasket when you're putting this on here. It's one of the things I try to do. I like to show the gaskets because they look really sharp when you do that. It's actually going to look pretty nice. And it's important to use 180 grit to do this. I like to take a little 180 grit, sand the edge of my gasket so it looks machine cut. Now what I like to do is I like to glue this size onto the piece because we're going to use shellac on this side that goes to it. So if you want to, you could pull this back off if you ever needed to get in there, which probably never, but you could. And the gasket will stay adhered to here, but it'll come off of there. So you have to glue this on. Made by 3M for gluing gaskets. So you just take some net. It's a little cool outside right now, so it's not real hot. Amazing how much effort and time it takes just to make one really nice gasket. To get a really nice edge like that that looks really spiffy. But it's worth it at the end product. It's always worth it in the details. Well, here we are, guys. We're this far along. There's that cover for that rear power shaft. Lights, battery box, got fenders on, wheels. Lots of really pretty stuff. Electrical stuff going in. Most of the front end done. coming along. We just gotta get the motor going now. Then on to the Woods belly mower afterwards. So everything is very detailed. As you can tell, every little thing is done. We try not to skip anything. Well, I gotta build the motor, because that's where this big empty spot is right here. Well, here's something a little bit different, guys. Here's a Cub. We don't normally do a lot of other tractors, mainly John Deere's, but here's a Cub that we've done. Belly mower, everything, total restoration, completely gone through. Super, super pretty. As you can tell. Everything is flat gorgeous. Running pretty darn good. Brand new gauges. Nice new seat. There's a little blade switch we added on there. Nice new tires and rims. Hydraulics work really, really well. This is even in a low setting. And the motor's not even running very fast, and look at how good that works. So we really make sure, we kind of really dress things up on some of these. We got a nice little step. So running really, really good. Well, like I say with the other ones, another one done. Well, she ain't even broke in yet. See if we can get her idle even a little lower. That's actually running really good, guys. She's not broke in or anything, but she's been completely gone through. From axles to motors, everything. all brand new. Getting really good oil pressure. Another walk around of another job done. Thanks for watching, guys.